and do the job, I'm sure. Nathan, before we talk women's football, because I think it's something we should celebrate here tonight with Ivan being here, to get more people to the games, if we've got 75% capacity at Cooper Stadium and you can get 12,500 there, how do we make that happen? How do we go? There are 12,500 people. I think there are going to be people coming to the games early because we can. And I think from what was said at the start, we've missed football. We've missed live football and missed Adelaide United football. So from your perspective as CEO, how do we get more people through the gates?
Yeah, that's the $64,000 question. I think in the short term, as I said before, we've I think positioned ourselves really well to rebound from COVID. Our engagement through digital, which has been our primary means of communication with everyone, we actually haven't been able to do, and face-to-face encounters such as these, having 3 dates for this event was a challenge, just to get 100 people in a room to talk about the club. I think there'll be a rebound. The 75% is really key. I mean, we've had just over 10,000, I think, to our last 2 round 1 games, which were previously played in October. I think good weather on the 3rd of January, we would hope that we go close to selling out at that number. The longer term question, and maybe we'll segue into the stadium discussion, because I think that plays a key role, is we've got, and we've said it last year and say it in all public commentary, because we've done a bit of radio on the stadium as well. As a pure viewing experience, when the weather's just right, we have the best stadium in the country. Second to none. I don't think there's any even close to it in terms of capacity and fan experience. As we saw last year, you go to either end of the spectrum, being 40 degrees at 5 o'clock on a Sunday, or 17 degrees. I think we had a Saturday afternoon game. I feel like they were a week apart as well. It's the opposite end of the scale in terms of fan experience. I know as having a young family, at 40 degrees, I wouldn't be bringing my 5-year-old son to a game. So how can we expect our members and fans to do the same? So whilst we're tracking really well, and I think in the right environment, our stadium is really good, it needs a lick of paint, to put it politely. The big news has obviously been the $45 million announced by state government to fund an upgrade to the facility, and I don't know if we get Phil up to speak about what those upgrades will actually entail. Some of the nitty-gritty of it I think will be of interest. That won't future-proof it for the next 50 years, and it's not a new stadium, but it will actually fix it, I think, to a degree that it becomes a much more pleasant experience for fans. When the weather is good, there's some upgrades that I think will make it a lot better, lights and audio and the like. But the shade will be really beneficial when we're playing in inclement weather. But I might throw to Phil to maybe speak about some of those upgrades.
Sure. Okay, so as you said, 45 million tipped in by the state government, and we're going to tip another 8.5, being Adelaide Venue Management Corporation, who I work for. What that'll look like is there's a lot of stuff. Firstly, and I think the thing that we have talked about a lot, the club and Adelaide Venue Management, is the desire and the need to get those double headers into... It's no secret that the Women's World Cup in 2023 has probably driven this investment from the government. There's a real desire, obviously, to host games here, and there's a real desire for us from a legacy standpoint that we can host W League games side by side with the men. So, first of all, we'll be upgrading the change rooms. So originally we had 4, we changed to 2. We'll be going back to 4 change rooms. So there's a lot of stuff that actually happens in there, things that we have to be able to do from a compliance issue, from a FIFA. I've learned a lot about FIFA in the last 12 months and compliance. So there's a lot of stuff that we actually have to do to get compliance in there. So what you're seeing there now will change dramatically for the players and the experience in there as well. The stuff that you will probably really notice is things like we'll put a roof on the eastern stand, and there'll be a new hospitality section which will actually go on top of the existing stand there now, so that'll go up higher with the roof. We'll upgrade all the audio visuals, so you'll get the sound within there. Let's be honest, it's not great in there at the moment, and what it should do is give us a full surround sound type experience in there. I was lucky enough this week to go up to the convention centre and just look at some speakers. It's not my thing, but I sort of sat there with my eyes closed. It was pretty impressive, I've got to say, what we're going to look at doing into there. 2 new video screens. So we're not sure yet whether we keep the one we've currently got and add 2 in. We've just got to look at how that all fits in the stadium. LED perimeter. So the perimeter now, the fencing that you've currently got in there will become full LED wrap. So kind of like when you go to the Adelaide Oval and you see them hit a 6 or goal and it all lights up. So again, just that visual fan experience. We'll get a new playing surface. So the surface will get ripped up. I want to see if I can get some of the grass at my house, but I know Nate's lining up too. He's a bit of a grass tragic. But we've got to bring that up, and the reason for that is it looks immaculate. If anyone went to the NPL final on Friday night, it is schmick at the moment, and Simon, our groundsman, has done a fantastic job of it. But the irrigation isn't up to standard. So the problem is, if you understand anything about watering, it pops up in banks, so we can't isolate sections. So when you actually get down onto the field and you really do look at it, there are some problem sections for us there. So we've got to address that. So that will come up, and that's not a cheap exercise to replace a field and the irrigation. What else? There's all the new, the lighting. So the lighting will come up to FIFA standard. So again, the lux levels aren't where we need them to be. The food and beverage outlets. So we will actually gut every food and beverage outlet that we've got in there at the moment, and we'll redo those. And we'll actually build some new food and beverage outlets as well. You'll probably see where you see the food trucks and the vans on the western side when you first come into Holden Street. We'll actually make that more of a permanent sort of alley in there now with food and beverage outlets. So there's a lot of stuff going into it. You can spend 53 pretty quickly, I've got to be honest. But look, it's going to be pretty exciting. I've got to say, the fan experience for you, and it's going to happen really quickly. That's the other thing, is because 2023, I'm pretty nervous about that as is in terms of the timing. This will happen really, really fast. So look, there'll probably be that work. We'll see it commence. We're hoping some of it we can start immediately in terms of just the liquor paints and whatnot. But there's areas we can stage and we can try and do it so it's absolute minimal disruption to the season and to you as fans. Corporately too. Where's John? He's up there. So we'll actually gut the full, the corporate on the west. We're going to rip all that out and effectively rebuild it and put, new walls and bits and pieces in.
That's amazing. Phil, ladies and gentlemen, can you please give Phil a round of applause? That's awesome, and it's exciting, and I guess that leads us to 2023 and women's football. And Nathan, before Ivan comes up, you mentioned before the different sections of Adelaide United with the youth side, with the men's team and the W League team. That's amazing, the announcements that you made and bringing the club together again, not just for women's football here in South Australia, but it shows a togetherness for the club again.
Yeah, it's a program that has been somewhat isolated, and I think that's historical more than anything. The W League was run by Football South Australia for, I think, 7 years maybe. In 2016, we took it back and it became a fundamental internal operation for us. To be honest, it's improved out of sight every year since then. Now, we haven't necessarily got the results on the field. We had 2017-18 or 18-19 that we nearly made the finals. But the person that's sort of single-handedly responsible for that is Ivan Karlovic. The problem has been that he has been doing all of the recruitment, all of the individual player meetings, all of the planning, all of the coach recruitment discussions, all of the venue negotiations as the head coach. So Ivan, in some instances would spend more time in the office than we do. The guy was doing stuff all day and then training 5 nights a week. So we'd spoken to Ivan before COVID hit, but then COVID was obviously a good opportunity to look at a restructure and the best way to do it. And the way to do that was to appoint Ivan to sort of more of a football director's role for our women's programs. He became what's titled the head of women's football. And Adrian Stenter, who was the assistant coach, we felt the time was right. He'd been there for 2 years to step into the head coach role. So now, rightfully, the head coach operates purely on coaching. If Carl was having to book flights for the A-League team, trying to get into Geelong for round 1, whilst also coaching the team, that's essentially some of the day-to-day challenges that we were facing. So now Ivan probably still spends the same time on the program, but we're just constantly trying to improve it, and it's actually integrated a lot more. So we're doing this training session on the weekend, which is unique. I don't know of any other clubs that have done that, but you would have noticed in our communications that W League's fully integrated into it. When we launch a new kit, we launch it with our W League team as well. They're alongside each other as opposed to the W League program being the amateur sort of cousin that it was for a long time. Now it's on par and lives side by side with our A-League program.
Ivan, did you want to come up here, mate, and tell us a little bit about more? Ladies and gentlemen, Ivan Karlovic, please put your hands together. There you go, mate. Cheers. How weird. That's all clean. Congratulations. From the outside, it seems like, as Nathan was saying, Adelaide United, the A-League side, and the W League side, probably the only thing they had in common was the word league at the end of it. But now, the fact that in the messaging, as you said, Cozzy, it was amazing in talking about new merchandise, talking about the fan day this Saturday. The club is back together in the way that it should be, and you've been so passionate in women's football. So what does this mean for you and the opportunities it presents to the W League side, but just women's football in general?
Yeah, look,
I think I broke it with the sanitizer.
obviously, we've discussed the Women's World Cup, and the women's game has evolved immensely over the last few years. We mentioned earlier that as a club, we've started to look beyond a 12-month period. And Nathan mentioned earlier that this is something that we've been discussing for the last couple of years, and felt the time was right in order for me to evolve into a slightly different role, and allow the coach of the women's side to focus their full time and effort in coaching the side, and allow me to continue to make changes and work with Nathan and Bruce to continue to evolve the program, to make us more professional, to align us with the A-League program, and I think we're certainly taking the right steps.
This is going to be a time now in 2023 where the Matildas are in the spotlight, deservedly so, and have probably been in more of the spotlight than the Socceroos over the past half decade, which is well deserved. But can the players see the opportunity now of, we saw earlier in 2020 the Women's World Cup in cricket, what that did for the growth of the game. So now to hopefully have a game or a couple in Adelaide, but to have the best players in women's football here in Australia, hopefully that translates to people coming to watch the W League games.
Yeah, look, over my last few years here with the club, what generally was the case was an NPL season would finish and the girls would be happy to sign for Adelaide United and spend the 3 months of summer playing for Adelaide United, and for them that was an achievement, whereas you have discussions with the players now, and their goals are set a lot higher. Their primary focus is the W League and looking to progress into overseas clubs and overseas leagues, because the level has grown so much, and the media around, and you see the leagues around the world, the English league now, and the players and the money that they're spending now too is quite extraordinary.
A couple more questions before we hand it over to you guys. Bruce, because you are a heavy hitter amongst all areas of society, this season we go into 2021 without Hyundai at the front of A-League, without a major partner, and with a broadcast deal which is there for the moment. This is a question without notice. The state of the game at the moment, is it as dire as we probably thought leading into the back and forth about the television rights, of relying on that to really help sustain the game?
I think it's tricky. I think it's. I think the only way from here is up. I was in Sydney last week. I went to FFA, spoke to the real decision makers, the real heavy hitters there, and the consensus was, we've restructured, we've reset, and the only way is up for the sport. Obviously, with the Women's World Cup coming and the strength in the grassroots, that's clear. But with the professional leagues, they're very confident on the next TV deal, whether that's with Fox or a streaming service or a mix. No one's sure yet, but they're very confident on the next TV deal, and they're very confident that now with the unbundling, so the FFA won't run the A-League anymore. The A-League will be its own, leagues co, and the FFA will just take care of the grassroots. There was a lot of confidence in that office that it's onwards and upwards from here.
Just before we let you go, Bruce, before I'm handing you over to all of the members, I think we all look back on this year and go, what did we learn? Watching the hub life of the A-League, it was fascinating because I think that's some of the best football that we've seen in the A-League for a while. Young Australian players fighting for positions. It was in winter, so that's been discussed as well. Did you look at that and go, it's quite interesting and potentially something that can be adapted to a business model or the way that recruiters look at football going forward?
Is that playing in winter?
Playing in winter, but also focusing more on the Australian players too.
Yeah, certainly. I think we've been doing that. We were COVID-proofing our squad prior to that, unbeknown to us. We had to focus on not just Australians, but South Australians and younger players. A lot of clubs now are pivoting to try and do the same thing. But I think to be sustainable, like the A-League is not the Premier League. Never will be. Probably shouldn't aim to be. In my view, we play a part in what is a global ecosystem and a global market called football. It's a massive market. We are a small player. So if you want a sustainable club, then you need to be able to develop good players that can be on-sold overseas, have a strong membership and fan base, because without you guys, we don't exist. But you also need to do that other stuff. You cannot go around and try to compete with the MLS, try to compete with Asia. You just don't have the money to compete on that front. So for me, it's a no-brainer. If it's good enough for Ajax to be a development club, then it's good enough for us to be a development club. We shouldn't pretend to try and be anything different. Ajax might sell players to Real Madrid for 50 million, but if we can sell players for 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 million, then I think we're on a very good path and certainly on a sustainable path.
Just finally, Carl, Nathan mentioned earlier, we've had a Spanish style of football, a German style, a Dutch style, all in the space of about 5 years. Your style of football, what are we going to see going into 2021?
I think we got a little bit of a taste of it in the hub. It's developing. It will keep changing. My philosophy, it's just not, today it's this, and I'll keep developing it as I move along. And a lot of it will depend on the playing group that we have at the time. I have to work out the best playing style for the players that we have at the time to get us the best results that we can get. And
just finally, do you have a measure of success going into this season with goals and targets that you want to achieve that you can share with us?
I'm sure the playing group and especially the coaching staff, we want to win every game that we play in, and that's our target, is to finish the season on top. That's what we have to aim for, and that's what we challenge the players for every day, that they come and prepare themselves and be ready to be their best every time they train and give their best when they play. And that's all we can ask from the players, to give their best effort, and if we're good enough, we'll finish on top.
Thank you very much, guys, because it was the members who actually put the majority of these questions forward, so I think the guys answered them brilliantly. And now we are going to hand it over to you. As I said, it is going to take a little bit of time because Marius is going to walk around with a microphone and some sanitizer. He's being very COVID safe. So if you do have a question, if it wasn't addressed, just put your hand up and then Marius is going to come round and we'll get to as many people as possible. We do have a little bit of time. So Marius, did you just want to grab... I might grab Ivan. You mind if I grab your mic? You can direct your question at anybody as well, ladies and gentlemen.
Just on the youth players, which has been fantastic, just one question was the player Gamulka. during the hub, he basically held a place in the side. It'd just be disappointing that we lost him in the off-season. What's the background to that?
He got sold to City Football Group dream. Come to City Football Group, you know, we've got 15 clubs around the world and we're going to develop you here and then we're going to sell you off. So he believed that story. My message to him was, speak to Stefan. He went there. Speak to Bruce Kamau. He went from here to there. You know, there's a host. I personally thought he was better suited staying here, but he believed the grass is greener on the other side, and time will tell. Hopefully, he does well. I mean, it'd be a really good story if he did do well, but time will tell.
Is that, Bruce, is that your polite way of saying that the City Group sold him a dream of playing for the City Group and not necessarily Melbourne City?
No. I think, you know, the whole idea and their whole business model, which is actually a really good one, is that once you join the City Group, you don't have to leave. They've got teams at different levels all around the world. You can join the City Football Group and be in the City Football Group for life and have a phenomenal career. I mean, it was fantastic for Aaron Moy. I don't say it's not possible. And if he has an Aaron Moy type story, it'd be fantastic. I'm genuine about that. But I think personally he would have been better suited staying here.
Okay. Thank you for your question.
Howdy guys. First of all, I want to make a bit of a statement. So being a part of the Red Army as the secretary, I want to thank the club for the engagement that we've had so far. This year has really stepped up a notch. Having Bruce come to the grand final replay was exceptional. And by all means, we're absolutely enjoying the actual connection back with the club, and it's been something that we've felt has been missing for a long time. So big kudos to all of you. Being a part of the local football league, I see a lot of potential there. Obviously, Carl's seen it as well. What I just want to know is, going forward with the State League 2, State League 1, NPL, what are you guys looking at doing to sort of develop yourselves as an image to the local, Football SA, and providing that opportunity for players going, this is where I want to be when I grow up?
Yeah, that speaks to our engagement with local clubs. We've been somewhat, again, we probably had the discussion here last year, but we were somewhat combative with them. Not in a malicious sense, I don't think, a lot of the times, but our relationship hasn't been strong. Coupled with that is the connection through to the NTC and high performance programs that Football SA run. Whilst we've been the beneficiary of a lot of good players having come through that, also a lot of good players have left because they didn't see themselves as a future Adelaide United player. So first and foremost, we need to create that culture and implement sort of some of our ideas and expectations around what it means to be an Adelaide United player into the playing groups, families that participate in the elite programs. With the clubs, I think it's about building relationships and being present. It's 297 clubs as of last year. I don't know if that's changed in South Australia. It's near on impossible for us to have a player appearance at every one. So we're not going to see all these kids all the time and have them aspirational to play. But we've got a 15,000 or 16,500 seat stadium and 30,000 registered players. It's quite easy to fit them all in there over a couple of games. So we're working with the clubs, sort of COVID postponed some of it, but on basic stuff like ticket initiatives, to get them in. We need them to taste the game, but they also need to come and feel as though they're connected with the club. So that speaks to our media strategy, and digital media is obviously much or very important with younger audiences. We need to continue to find ways to connect with them, and I think having a South Australian coach, a South Australian captain, Stefan and Jordan are both from local clubs. The majority of our players have come from local clubs. We need to respect that history a little bit more so that the clubs look at us and actually, and many do, but see it as a badge of honour to have a player come to Adelaide United, but based on sort of some past relationships, it's not always the case.
Hey, Carl, it's to you, of course. And first of all, I'd like to congratulate you on the great appointment, and you deserve it. And from me personally, I'm probably a die-hard fan. I happened to see you scoring the first goal in the A-League, and that was against Brisbane Lion, I guess. Yes, and sorry? That's right, yeah. And that was at Hindmarsh Stadium. And can you just take us through that, because you were a lot younger, and that goal was a fantastic goal. I'm not saying you're that old, but
I don't know if I was a lot younger. I was.
I was 11, 12, 14 years.
Yeah.
But was
So
that
I was still quite old then.
But that will have to be one of the goals like John Aloisi scored, to take us to the World Cup. But that was one of the first goal for you, or like.
Yeah, look, it was the beginning of the club. That night is, I'll always remember that night. It was a fantastic night, and it was how the club started. It was bringing the community together, bringing all the clubs together, and that's the path that the club where we want to go back to. Getting that first season of Mark 1, having all the supporters there from the local clubs coming, and that it was tremendous that first year.
And then just finally, from Radio 103.1 FM Adelaide, we've got three of us, Peter, myself and Graham. We do a sports show, so thank you, Bruce. A few months ago, we did a fantastic interview with yourself, and we had a lot of success through that. And is there a possibility that we can give you guys 10 minutes at least every week, or 15 minutes, to come and share your experience and promote the club, if possible?
Yeah, there's no problem. Marius, he's the head of our...
Is that?
No, I like what you did.
Marius
It's very
over there.
courageous.
He's the man that organises all the media, and
Terrific.
As I said to Marius, I'm more than happy to do every media thing that we have to do.
Thank you, and good luck
Very
for the
open
future.
and
Thank you.
That's a big gig. 15 minutes every week. That is a massive commitment. Just saying, Bruce might be able to do it as well, I think, but that's good. I like that.
Thanks. My question is actually to Bruce, and could you perhaps, to the audience and especially us here, give us a better explanation of how the structure of the new A-League in relation to the FFA works? Are you now a direct member of that new structure, or how does it work as far as Adelaide United is concerned?
That's above my pay grade. Pete Vanderpoel, the chairman's at the back of the room. I think it's a question for him after the forum. I just work here.
Thank you for your questions, guys. What frequency can we listen to you on the radio? 103.1 FM. Okay, thank you. 103.1 FM, ladies and gentlemen.
Bruce, Mark Jones. James Troisi, I thought that unless he's got a release clause in his contract, then his contract is binding. Can you comment on that for a moment? Then I've got something else to say.
Yeah, his contract is binding, but again, we're not here to chain people to the fence and force them to stay. If a player really doesn't want to be at a club, I think it's near on impossible. Technically, you can stop them from leaving, but then you end up paying money to someone who's not committed to the cause. I did economics at uni, and my understanding is allocate your resources where they're best utilised. We're better off taking that money and spending it elsewhere for someone who's going to give us a greater output, because you only play your best football when you're happy.
Yeah, opinions you can argue with. Facts do not lie. In the last 2 championships, Sydney, they've had Adam Lafondra, who's got 20-odd goals, and the runner-up last year, Jamie McLaren. Carl, bringing in Tommy Roddick. What are your expectations? Is he coming here carrying an injury? Is he here for the season? Tell us about him.
Is that a player announcement? Because that is massive if Tommy Rog is joining us. I think you mean Tommy Urich.
Tommy Roddick's cousin, Tommy Urich.
I got so excited there. I was out of there. You guys got the exclusive.
Bruce, now we got 700,000 for the midfield. Sign both the buggers.
No, look, Tommy, as you said, it's clear if you want to win the championship, you need a striker that's going to score you 15 to 20 goals a season, and that's clear. And when I was appointed, I sat down with Bruce and where we needed to strengthen the squad, and we needed to find a striker that was going to score us 15, 20 goals. And we believe Tommy can do that. He's fit. He was playing up until, I think, 4 or 5 weeks ago at his club in Bulgaria, so we know he's fit. Yes, he hasn't trained for a few weeks now, but we expect him to hit the ground running, and we expect him to not just score goals for us. He's a creative player as well, so he'll bring goals to the other players that are playing in our team.
As Marius is taking the microphone over there, does it also help the fact that Tommy's played here before? So outside of football, he understands the environment, understands places to go for dinner and things like that. So actually off the pitch, you have a bit more. You're a bit more settled.
Yeah, most definitely. That was, I suppose the easier part of selling the club to him, because he's been here before and he knows how wonderful city Adelaide is to live in. So. We didn't have to sell the city to him. He already knew the city. We just had to explain to him that we want success and we want him to have success. And because we want him to get back into the Socceroos. And it's that's when I had the talk to him about explaining the way that I wanted to play, and it suits the way that he plays. So I'm really looking forward to working with Tommy, and hopefully he can get here and, as I said, hit the ground running, start scoring goals from round 1.